Hi guys, my name's Ellie, welcome to my channel, and today I want to do the no brand makeup tag from Kimberly Clark. It can be a actual tutorial or it can be a get ready with me. I'm doing a get ready with me because I don't have a plan. I don't normally have a plan when I start putting on makeup. I kind of just have things in front of me and I do them. So I'm gonna try my best to keep most things off camera so you're not seeing a ton of logos. And I very well might forget to tell you some of the things going on my face because we're not doing that. We're not focusing on what brand it is or anything like that. We're just putting things on and doing our makeup. That's sunscreen. I really like sunscreen as a base because if I do any physical sunscreen underneath my makeup, I don't have to worry about it for the rest of the day. I am also playing with a foundation that I haven't used in a long time, but that's something for another video. You will be seeing this. This is my The Rock Pro Matte palette. I've panned it, but it has a really nice mirror, so this is what I use generally as my hand mirror, so you will be seeing that. But I'm not actually using it, so I don't feel too bad. I want to try... Oh, that's a lot. Oh, shit. We're gonna go fast. So I have a foundation that I want to put on. I don't know how well it's gonna go on with a brush because... Oh, I don't think the color match is very good. I bought it online because I have been using other stuff and I was kind of at a point where I'm like, I want to have a foundation again. I've been using a lot of like sheer things as a base and not really anything that has much coverage, which is good. I've been really happy with my skin, so I've been using a lot less coverage, and that's good, but every once in a while I just kind of like lean back and I'm like, I want some coverage again. So, okay, it's looking better. I also moved a bunch of stuff around in my room, as you can tell. I forgot to tell you that I'm filming multiple videos on the same day, so... Oh, that looks a little orange on camera, but not horrible. Well, some things, if they're not a great match, once you add on powder and blush and all that, it looks not as bad. But I also, with moving some stuff around, it changes the light that I'm filming under, and things are different. I am slightly off to the side, so the light is no longer direct, it's kind of angled. This is a foundation that I bought online with a best estimate. Couldn't remember what color I wore back when I wore it, and I also, like, that was when I first got into makeup, and I just picked the lightest shade. I didn't wear any blush. I don't know if I even set it with powder. It was... You know all the awkward makeup things that everybody did in, like, middle school? I didn't do those because I didn't wear makeup in middle school. I started wearing makeup at, like, 22, 23, and it was different. It was a very different experience to start wearing makeup later and not know what I wanted to do with it. That does look quite orange. Let me just... Okay. It's just because I'm in the shadow, because I moved where I'm filming into the shadow for some reason. I'm tempted to just scoot the whole desk over, but I'm not going to do that. We're just going to adjust. If I really, really wanted to, I could scoot my chair over and the filming setup, because my window's here, and I'm here. And I like to film with natural light, because I don't have any lights. But this also means that I kind of end up looking like I didn't match my shade very well, which I very well might have. But I also could just be in shadow because I tend to do my makeup in direct sunlight. I'm now going to set that with powder because I am an oily bitch. So, reasons that I rearranged my whole room. My boyfriend is trying to buy a house for us. And he's very sweet. And I love him. But sometimes he does things, like what he's currently doing, which can be a little frustrating. He's trying to surprise me. He wants the house he buys for both of us to be a surprise, which last time he was like in a mood to like look at and buy houses, he tried to do that. He wanted to surprise me with a house, which is very, very sweet. It is kind of adorable and also kind of frustrating because as much as it's very sweet and I appreciate wanting to like have a cute little surprise to show me, I also kind of want to have some input, like our negotiations for living together. He's going to be buying the house because he makes quite a bit more than I do. So he will technically, like, that does mean he kind of has access to buying the house that he wants since it's going to be mainly his house that we live in. But since I'm still most likely going to do a lot of the cooking, and I know he doesn't care a ton about like bathroom setups, it's kind of weird to, like, he knows we've looked at houses together now, so at this point I'm much more confident that he knows what I want, and the way he's talked about it has been like, oh, I'm so excited to show you how much I was listening when you were talking about houses. So it should be fine. It's unlikely that he's going to buy a house that I literally cannot stand. We have a lot of the same things we want out of the house. And I think he technically has more requirements. Like, I have things I would like in a house, but I also know that a lot of them are things I can do without. Whereas he has things that are like, no, need this, need this, need this. Okay. And the things he wants, none of them are things that I would really have a problem with having, but they're not all things that would be like make or break for houses. I'm gonna put some lip balm on because my lips get dry. So, foundation is on and powdered. Lips are moisturized. Now we're going to do some eye shit. So, looping it back around with my out of order, disgruntled shenanigans. He's making some offers on houses. So I am like feeling all the energy of like, ooh, moving. But I'm also aware that like it's going to take a while for to find a house, depending on who does or doesn't accept his bids. And then there's closing, and there might be time frames of maybe the family's still living in the house and they want 60 days after whatever to get their shit together and move out. You know, there might be issues in escrow, there might be negotiations of like, yes, the bid's done, but we're doing this and that with things. I have not bought a house before, but I'm aware that it's not like ooh, I want this house, 1 week later move in. It's generally not that fast. There's a lot of other things going on that mean that we're not going to move in next week. So it feels like things are changing, but at the same time, they're not changing as fast as I feel like they kind of are. Oh, that's not the brush I thought I was picking up, but it's what we're going with now. This is eye primer, by the way. Since I don't really do concealer, because I'm lazy. I prime under my eyes, and I've had the best experience with putting on my base and then just putting eyeliner or eye primer on the area that I intend to actually put powder. I need to move my brushes closer to me. I want them. Oh, I should shift this over again. Part of moving my room around has been moving things over here. So instead of having like a separate filming space and like a get ready space, I have one space. So things are not exactly set up for getting ready, or not set up for filming. And since I don't normally have the camera set up where it is, the space is great for getting ready, but I then have to make a space in it for the camera while filming. So we're testing it out. We're seeing what it is. So he's making offers on houses. It feels like things are going to change, but I'm also aware that, like, we're not moving in for a while. We don't even have somebody accepting the bid yet. And I decided that I was going to use that energy to reorganize my room. So I did that. I moved a bunch of shit around. I threw out a bunch of stuff because I have things that I acquire, either through being given, through buying, through like moving back and forth places and being like, oh, I'm gonna need this. At some point I'm gonna need this. I'm gonna use it. And I don't use it. So that's eye primer on, like a mid-toned beigey shade on to set my crease. And now I want to go in and blend some stuff. So I have some pretty colors. I kind of have a plan, kind of don't. We'll see what happens. I want to start with this like kind of pumpkin-y orange. And I want to put that like here. It also doesn't help that it's kind of overcast outside, and it might start raining, and I don't know yet, so it's not as bright for multiple reasons. So yeah, I had all this energy from like, ooh, things are happening, we're gonna have a house, and like feeling like things are gonna change, and also knowing that it's not happening right now. But this is kind of a chance for me to change some setups in my room so my room feels a little different up until I'm moving, and kind of go through and throw out stuff so when I am moving I have less shit to bring with me. And all this stuff that I've been saving and getting together and being like, oh yeah, this is going to be very helpful one day. I'm going to need this one day. I'm going to use this at some point. Which, honestly, it's rare. I'm not probably going to want most of the stuff that I've been setting aside and saving for a special time. I'm most likely going to be so excited about moving into a new place that I'm going to want to buy new things. I'm going, like, I shouldn't buy a ton of new stuff, but there's things I've set aside being like, yeah, this is going to be helpful. And I'm not going to use it. I'm just not. I know myself. I'm not going to. Okay. I should have brought a color switch. Would have been helpful. So instead, we're going to knock off color on a towel. Because I don't want to switch a bunch of brushes for just one look. I just want to do some stuff. I'm going to see how this one works. I have this like foresty green, and I want to use it, but I also don't know if it's going to be real muddy. We're going to find out. It might be too dark to be its own shade. I might have to blend it out with something else. That's not too bad. Like, I might blend it out with something just to be a little different. So it did end up pretty swampy, but that's good. We're just having fun today. The most I'm doing is potentially going to Target to look at laundry hampers because I've had the same laundry hamper since I got one to go away to college, and it is old and kind of busted. And with reorganizing my room, I threw out a bunch of stuff that I was like, oh, I'm setting this aside for reasons, or, you know, let me put this here and then I'll figure out what I'm doing with it later, and it just kind of piled up on surfaces. So I threw it all out. I threw a bunch of stuff out. Stuff that was just clutter and in my way, and stuff that I did not need. And I'm feeling real good about it because there's so much more room for activities. But yeah, I like that this is just a clean brush to kind of like buff out the edges and soften it. I wanted more space. I wanted this space to be more functional. And I feel like throwing out a bunch of, like, people just kind of acquire shit over the years. Unless you're, like, keeping track of it as you go, you're going to end up with a bunch of extra shit that you have to thin out every once in a while. And I kind of feel like we end up with a lot of sentimentality. Like, there's stuff I threw out which, like, I liked it. I had some stuff from one of my friends. She's gone over and been in China for several stints. I think currently it's her third time, because she's over there right now. She's living in China, teaching, I believe, English as a second language, and she's been over there a couple times now, and so she's had to clean out her living space several times, being like, shit's going into storage. I don't have space for this. And I've picked up a couple things, being like, oh, that's cool, now let me keep that. And they're cool, they're great, but they're just sitting there. They weren't doing anything, so I threw a couple of them out. Because I have other things from her. I have different things. I don't need everything. Just because I have a memory with it does not mean that it needs my space. So it's a little bit of the KonMari method of, like, thanking it and moving it on. But also a lot of it was stuff that isn't really something I think most people would want. Like, it's like art projects from when she was in college for her art degree that was really cool and I liked it, but it's just like weird art that was to pass a class. Like, it wasn't anything super amazing. I think I'm gonna take this shade. It's kind of like, you can't see it because it's on a brush that has a pigment on the... You'll see it on my face. I want to put it there. See how it's like the orange, but a little bit more bricky? Yeah. We're going very, like, warm forest themes today because that's what's in front of me and I want to use it and I don't really have a plan. But yeah. So I had a combination of, like, stuff I'd set on surfaces being like, I'll figure out what I'm doing with it later. Let me just put it there for now, and then I never came back to it. Or stuff where I'm like, yeah, I'm totally going to use this. I have a plan for this. Which I didn't. I didn't have a plan for it. I was just accumulating a lot of shit that's really just trash. So I had a lot of fun. I used all of my energy. And I freed up a lot of areas to do other things with. I have spaces. I have consolidated, like, I threw out a bunch of, like, skincare samples where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna pan this, you know. Skincare that came in as freebies that I did not need. I had no plan for. I didn't purchase it. It just showed up and I was like, well, I can't waste it. You can. You can throw it out. If you're not going to use it, you can get rid of it. And I was not quite there yet. I am there now in that I've had samples and I've wasted a lot of time and energy panning samples that I didn't really care a ton about. I also want to take this like eggplanty purple and like put it out here. So, I've done a lot of work on getting my hair and skincare routine down to a lot less. Because I am prone to expanding my routines just to add new and interesting things that don't actually do anything and sometimes end up harming my routine. I get excited about things and I pick up a bunch of products and then I just get this really complicated routine that doesn't actually do anything helpful and sometimes ends up breaking me out or damaging my skin, and then I acquire more products to deal with the fallout from the products that I'm using that I shouldn't be, and it ends up being a lot. Kind of like this eye look. And yeah. So I've been working on, I've trimmed it down, I have a much simpler routine, a lot more normal of a routine, and I like it. I like that I have it, I like that it's simpler, and I'm trying to keep it that way, so I kind of like moved it into a basket so I can take my products out, use them, and put them back in. They're not taking up a top surface area that I could put cool things on, like there. The stuffed animals that I've acquired over a lot of time of just being ridiculous, like Toothless, Build-A-Bear, Ewok, Build-A-Bear, Panda. Oh, Panda wasn't Build-A-Bear, I think Panda was the zoo? I have these things that are really cool that, like, those are things I made with friends or picked up with friends, and, like, my friend has the other panda, we have matching pandas, and they were just sitting, not out, and now they have a surface to sit on, and they're very happy, and they're hanging out. Ooh, and I'm poking that. So I'm putting down, like, a cream base, just kind of to make sure that my shimmers stay put, because that happens sometimes, and because I have cream shadows, I should use them. It helps the color underneath to be very, very opaque and impactful. Not that I have the issue with the shadows I'm about to use, but just, I like it. It's also very hot out, so if I end up sweating and if any of that ends up on my eyelids, the cream base really helps things hold up in the heat. So, I think I have a plan. We'll see what my plan ends up being. I have, ooh, complications. I have some duochromes, and I think maybe I'm not using what I think I'm using. I want to use at least one thing, so let's start with the one thing I know I want to use. If I can find the brush I wanted to use, there we go. I want to use this, like, peachy iridescent orange thing. It doesn't really show up, but it's there now, so we're going to take that, place it on the inner third. That ended up really, really light. So I'm going to use the back end of that to pick up this other, like, greeny, minty one and place that on the center of the lid. Yeah. I don't know what we're doing for the outer third. We'll figure it out. I should have just used the green. I think the green's all I want. I think the peach works better as an inner corner color, so we're just gonna make the whole thing the green. Because sometimes you change your mind halfway through a look, or you don't have a plan. Normally, if you're like me, you don't have a plan ahead of time. Or things don't translate the way you think they are, you picture them in your head, and things don't always end up where you wanted them to be. I do really like this green. And like I said, it's opaque enough that you don't really have to worry about it not covering up that other one. I think what we're going to do is, I have like this really muddy dark green that looks kind of blackish. We're going to put that on the outer third. Yeah, just kind of like a little bit out there to deepen out the outer corner. Blend it into the dark green we put out there, which really doesn't tie into anything else. Everything's a mess right now, and that's fine. So yeah, I moved a bunch of stuff around. I made a lot more surface area. I also went through a lot of books because I go through phases where I get very excited about deals on books and get like, oh yeah, I need this or I need this. And I ended up with some books that I read. Turns out I don't think I'm really going to be tempted to reread them, so I don't need to maintain the copy I have. I think it can be donated. Also, like from when I was in school, which I intend to go back, but I'm not there right now, they used to put out, like, people would put out their, what are they called? Their textbooks that, like, they weren't going to use and or, like, weren't being used for upcoming classes. Sometimes they change the book they require for different classes, so you don't really need it all the time. So I would pick up books and be like, oh, that's cool, but when am I going to read a textbook? When am I going to sit down in my free time and use a textbook that I didn't use as a reference for an actual class? Like, I'm not going to sit down and decide that I'm learning calculus again from a textbook. I don't need that. Eyes are not quite done. I lied. I want to go in with little focus guy. I'm going to take that peach shade that I originally used on the inner third, and I want to put that on my inner corner since I had covered up with the green shade. Yeah. So it's a really pretty, like, peach with a pink, oh, you can't see it. We'll get a bigger shadow brush. We'll buff it out. It'll be great. Like, it's a really nice soft peach with, like, a pink, think, Fireball from Urban Decay, which is one of the reasons I panned the Fireball that I had, because I had this, which does the same thing, and I also don't really, like, it's not something I would normally wear as, like, a main lid shade. I forgot that, and that's why I was like, oh, I'm gonna put it there, and I'm like, no, it's a nice inner corner highlight. It doesn't need to be a main lid shade. It's a little light for that, in my opinion, with my makeup preferences. Here I am building it up. Like, I can't remember the fact that I'm in shadow. That's why it's not translating on camera. Not that it's not there, it's that I'm in shadow, but like if I go over into the light, there we go. Okay. Now that I've remembered, now the eye look is done, I am going to sweep off excess powder. Because I'm very sloppy putting on powder when I do my foundation, because I want it to kind of, like, it's a very half-assed bake. I just put a shit ton of powder on my face without, like, pressing it in with a damp sponge or anything. Oh, ow. Went over my lip balm. it allows it to take up as much powder as it wants and kind of like really set down the foundation without having to like focus bake. It also leaves a bit of excess, so when I'm sweeping away powder, I have the same situation where I can sweep away excess, whatchamacallit, excess eyeshadow fallout like you can if you're baking under your eyes, but also you don't have to bake under your eyes, because I'm not using concealer, and no matter what I do, my under eyes are mobile enough that there will end up with little crinkles and creases, and that's fine. So I have a little bit of bronzer. I'm gonna go a little light just because it's been a while since I've worn a fuller coverage foundation, and since this one is a touch warmer, I feel like I often will get foundations that I know are, because my skin's really, really light, and like you can see, like this is pale, very, very pale, slightly darker, but get the bronzer on, get everything going, and it's not going to be as much of an issue. And I'm weird. I haven't been tan in a long time because I stopped trying to be tan because my skin doesn't really hold a tan very well. But I also like to bronze the edges, and I'm going a little light because I'm not used to having as much of a full coverage foundation on. It's fine. Bronzer's on. I do want some blush. I think we're gonna go with a lighter blush. That's not the brush I wanted. Save that for highlight. Ooh, we'll use this one. Like a fluffy kind of paddle brush, so I can like place and then blend out. And I am going to keep it a little safe with this. So it's a lighter blush, something that I can kind of fudge, add a little pink back. I think that's the other thing that's throwing me off about this foundation, is that it's not as pink of an undertone as I'm used to, because I do have very pink skin. This has been all over the place. I haven't like finished a full thought. I keep getting distracted. But yeah, so we have some really nice secondhand bookstores around here, so they'll go on these deals where like it's everything you can fit in a bag is like 20 bucks. And so I would go through and I'd get all sorts of things where I'm like, I might need this, or like this is a classic, or I've heard of this author. So I have a bunch of books. I have like textbooks from when they were free, being like, this is going to be useful. You're not, like, unless you need the textbook for a class, or you are motivated enough to like learn from a textbook what you would potentially need to learn for like understanding a subject. This is a brow wax, because I put wax down and then I put a brown eyeshadow for my brows. And this is the step I do that. But I would do that, and I would get all sorts of books. But I then would be like, yes, at some point I'm going to do that. Spoiler, I didn't do that. I didn't learn any of those courses from those books. You know, sometimes you find out, yes, because you liked an author at some point doesn't mean you really need all of their books, or that picking up books that might be random parts of a series where you don't have all of them anymore, or even in the right order. So you might have, like, maybe I read book 1 and then I found 4, 5, and 6. Well, I still need to read 2 and 3 if it's a series that follows any type of order. So yeah, now we're taking a dark brown shadow to just kind of define the brows. So yeah, I would do that. I'd be like, oh, I just read a book by this author. Let me get more from this author, without checking if they were in a series I liked, if they were the next in a series I liked, and I've changed jobs. A lot of those are books I picked up when I worked a job where I could read at work, where, you know, if things were slow, it was good to have a book on hand, whereas now I work in an office environment where I can't do that, where if things are slow, I'm trying to go find another task, or I'm trying to pull up some of the online courses we have to cross-train us, or to learn more about the other departments. Like, I can't just sit down and read book after book, because I was, at that previous job, there was a good amount of downtime. And I'm different now. I have a full-time job, because that previous job was not really full-time. I'm doing a lot more of my own cooking. I'm making time to see more family and friends. I have an in-town partner. That was back when I had a boyfriend that was long distance, so I wasn't committing any, like, in-person time. It wasn't like, oh, I'm taking, 2 or 3 nights a week to spend with this person. It was text. It was all whenever I fit it into my schedule, or, when we were visiting each other. So now that I have a partner who is, living in the same town with me, and we're seeing each other multiple times a week, and eventually going to move in together, that changes the dynamic. It changes what I have free time for, what I'm doing my free time with. I've gotten more into watching videos because they've expanded apps onto smartphones to view stuff like that better. They've gotten a lot higher quality. I just don't read as much as I used to. It's hard to pick a time, because you can play, like, a video on your phone while doing a task. So I do a lot of, like, listening to podcasts, or, like, having videos playing in the background while I'm cooking, or folding laundry, or doing a task that you can't do that with a book. You pick up a book and you kind of want to focus on the book. You want it to be engrossing, because if it's a good book, it should take your full attention. I'm just taking a champagne highlight and putting it on my highlight spots. I feel like it settled a little bit. Now you can't see, because I'm in lower light and my camera is not the best, because it's just my phone camera. You can't see that it's kind of settled into some pores. I think it's one of those things that's mainly going to be like an I notice problem, not an everybody will notice problem. But yeah, so I had all these books from when I was going through multiple books a week, because I had so much time available. And as you get older and your priorities and your activities change, you don't have that much time. And it's harder now to pick times of putting everything down and focusing on a book, because we have all gotten very attached to our phones. I'm gonna do setting spray, and hopefully I can hold this in a way that you don't really see it. Yeah. If you can't tell, I'm kind of trying to finish up this one. Also, I use a lot of powders between setting my foundation, powder, blush, bronzer, highlight, eyeshadows, all of that. I like to have it kind of meld into one layer by adding a good amount of setting spray. But I have to wait for it to dry. So yeah, I had a bunch of books that I was like, oh, I'm going through multiple books a week, I need to do this, and I had this urge to own specific books, but I really don't need to. If I'm not intending to reread it, or I'm not intending to, like, loan it out a bunch, I just don't really need as many. And I have a lot that I bought being like, oh yeah, sure, and I never got around to reading it, so maybe it wasn't actually as interesting or as tempting as I thought it was. As well as I get a lot of books as gifts for Christmas and my birthday and stuff like that. So I had a lot. And I have 3 bookshelves. And they were full. And I had stacks of books on the floor. So I went through and pulled a lot of those out, ones that I could donate to books and secondhand bookstores, libraries, stuff like that. I'm gonna have some people go through it, see what they want out of those before they go away, but that was a lot. I threw a lot. I also had some books from when I was with the previous boyfriend that either he gave me and or he was gonna get rid of. And I was like, no, I'll read that. And it wasn't a great breakup. I don't have the best end memories with that partner, so I haven't read any of the books from that partner. I kept like one because it was a book that he had that I wanted to read, and I'd wanted to read for several years before knowing him, and I still haven't read it. It's like Gun, Steals, and Germs. Yeah. I'm gonna do my mascara real quick, and I know I can't do that on camera very well. I'll be back in a second. Also, I got a text that I need to respond to. Hold on. So, mascara is on. Kind of passable. I've been having it sassing me lately. And I just want to put on just like a standard lipstick. Yeah, I still have a little bit of lip balm, so the lipstick's not adhering as much as it could be. I'm gonna scoot whole chair over. We're gonna take you guys. So, that is the look. In better lighting, you can now kind of see that iridescent inner corner. Fun shifts. What the actual, like, the foundation's not as bad when it's in sunlight. It's still a little not quite the same, but we'll deal with it. And my very roundabout way of saying is, I want to go hamper shopping because I've had the same busted hamper since I went away to college, and with my room being in a better space right now, I really like the idea of getting like a table that has a pull-out laundry hamper underneath, so that I can put like a plant in my window and have a nice looking pretty hamper that I can then put in and out, as opposed to like the junky plastic one from when I was going away to a dorm. And I like it, so I'm gonna go shopping, because that was the other thing, is I got a text from my sister that her baby has woken up from the nap and she's ready to go shopping, so we're gonna go laundry hamper shopping. And I also might pick up a lamp or two. I used to have lamps. I had them on my bedside table. They were useful, and for some reason I got rid of the one I have, and I haven't gotten another one, and now I want one again. But this is the look. I think I like how it turned out. It's a little different than I was expecting, but also nice. I'm gonna go. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully I did a good job of not really saying brand names or showing brand logos. I think I did a good job. And I like how the look turned out, and hopefully this is something you guys have similar colors that you can find and recreate on your own. I'm ready. I'm gonna take my hair down, because it's clean for once, and go laundry hamper shopping like an old person. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you next time. Thank you, Kimberly Clark, for coming up with a great tag and a good way to use makeup in a way that is less silly, less advertising, more fun, more bonding and enjoying what we have. And people might have these types of shades and not been as aware that they could just use them because they hear a brand name and a shade name and think, oh, I have to use that. When no, you have a lot of these. Most people probably have a pumpkin orange, an olivey green, or reddish brick. Like, you're good. You got this. You don't need to know what I used, because you probably have the same shade from a different company. I'll see you all next time. Thank you for watching. Bye.